Hey guys, welcome back to the Rider Waxing channel. Now, what are we going to be doing in this episode? I hear you ask. Quite a bit, to be honest with you. I've got my subframe in, albeit I've got to take it out. I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a second. I have a brand new pedal box, so if you follow me on Instagram, if you don't, then Retro Mini 998KR, I'll pop it on the screen just here. Go across and follow me on there. I did some cardboard design and CAD design, purely simply so I can try and get this new pedal box that I've got, which mounts upwards, when the other one mounted to the bulkhead. I have fixings on the bulkhead, which I quite like, and I'm just trying to make something out. So I did it cardboard. I just quickly threw this together for the simple reason because it's quite heavy to mount. So I thought, well, if I make a mounting plate like so, I can mount this up, put the pedal box up to it, and then I can adjust work out if it's a 90. This is currently at 100 degrees of an angle. To lift the pedals slightly more forward, yeah, I need to understand that I've got clearance for my steering column going down to my steering rack. So I'm going to be basically fitting this out with this and then the pedal box, but I'm going to get the master cylinders fitted to the pedal box, so I've got some resistance on the pedal so I can understand the travel, so we're not hitting anything. And then once that's done and formulated, then I'm going to take the subframe back out. I've got to put on these things I got from NDAF Owens, so I can cut the inner wings out. But unfortunately, the powder coating that I've had done on my front subframe will have to be damaged, so I'll have to get that done again. I did pick up a second-hand subframe from someone, quite a good guy that I know, Paul Tupman, lovely chap. But unfortunately, it's an automatic front subframe, so he's just sourcing me a manual subframe. So if anybody's after an automatic front subframe, it is just covered in surface corrosion, but it is actually in very good order, then I do have one of those, so do let me know. So we're going to get those fitted in. Once they're fitted in, I'll move that out of the way. Once that's fitting, I can cut the inner wings out, and then we can get the engine in. But I fitted it, and then I suddenly thought, well, I need to fit the steering rack and the steering column to make sure it all fits in this. So I've had to rewind, and this is the naivety of my brain on how it works and how I should be doing stuff. So I do something before something else, and so on and so on. But anyway, at least it's a bit of fun. And but I'm really keen to get this thing back together. I've got to get the rear subframe in as well. For the new reason being for the weight aspect. Because when I put the engine in, I think it's going to slightly tilt off my little trolley I've got here. So there we go. Let me pop with my hand out, and I'll give you a quick walk around. And then we're going to put some time lapse on, stick some tunes on, and you'll see me rushing around in warp speed, and hopefully getting this thing nearer to a completed car before then it goes off to paint. That's the idea. Anyway, let's crack on. So here we are. Oh, right. Subframe mounts. Again, everything's been powder coated, which is really cool. I've got these plates here, which I need to weld on here. Hence, I need to understand exactly where these are going. But we fitted the subframe, as you can see. Subframe's freshly powder coated. Everything is all nice and shiny and new, which is lovely. I've got new cones in there, and I've actually lathed down, if you go back to my earlier videos, the high lows. I've taken a good 3/4 of an inch off those. Still plenty of thread to allow for the extra rubber that's on the cone, dare I say it, and also to allow for better travel. Now I've tubbed the front wheel arches, and there's the tubbed wheel arches, which I think I didn't really do a close-up last time, but yeah, quite pleased how they turned out. Put riv nuts in, and then I've welded the back of the riv nuts for the simple reason, then that way they're nice and secure, and like these ones, I've been able to grind the top off, making it nice and flush for my canards. I keep calling them canards. Canards, I think that's right. So they can fit flusher because they were sticking out. So that worked an absolute treat, and I've done the same, as you can see, just there. So yeah, riv nut, weld it from back, and then you can grind that little front lip off. A little tip there, I thought works quite well. I've got to weld up a couple of these holes here. These for the bonnet brackets that I've got here and here. So they're all good. That's my very rudimentary welded support box that I just basically made. That's at 100 degrees opposed to 90 along the edge and down. But just to mount the pedal box, like I said, I will tidy that up, but it is, I keep modifying it and changing it, trying to get it in the right place, but I do need to fit the steering rack. So yeah, and yeah, that's about it really. Just before we fit the beast. Look at this. I am so excited. This is the reason why I can't wait. I'm like a kid in a candy shop. Oh, look at that. It's just absolutely beautiful. That's another level altogether in the sense of what I'm going to do or try to do. That's nice and wrapped up. Rear subframe's just here. Got to get all that on again. All freshly powder coated and everything else. That's in the previous video, so I've got to fit that. So it's not really too much to fit, really. Get that in, rear subframe in, reconditioned all the ball joints and bits and bobs so they can go in there. Once I've got it all fitted, I can then take it all off and spin it over, do all the little bits of weld, and away we go. There's the pedal box that I've got, and that mounts just up under here, but you can see the weight aspect. Let me just grab this a second. There we go. So there's my brackets I made for my previous pedal box, and they're all machined and lathed and welded in, and that will mount like so, and then the pedal box hangs down from there, and then all I've got to do is put a support plate across here with like a captive nut and bolt, but weld it to the top of this once I finish this off, and then it will give it so much strength. It's be unbelievable, and it'd be nice and solid and be part of the car. That's the idea. If anybody's got any other ideas, they can do let me know. And if anybody knows that I can send that to somebody, then make it look pretty, because that looked blinking awful, that'd be great. But otherwise I'll just have another go at making a tidier one, which would be cool. So yeah, I kind of was working my way to the front. I've had to come back a bit before I go back to the front. And somebody asked me what size holes they are. I did answer him back, a nice chap. That's the size of the hole for the cutter and dimpled eye, and that's the one for the inside. I don't know, I think that's got a size on that one. No, I think that was a 2-inch one, and that's those ones just there. But anyway, let's get on and crack on. Mounted. To be fair, you don't see it, but I just need to modify it slightly. I think I've got to move these bolts here across 5mm, or move the pedal box on the bolts that bolt up the top just up here, move them across 5mm. But that is proper stout. That is not going anywhere. That's now part of the car. We've got clearance here as well, so it's not rubbing on, but I can trim this back. And this is where the throttle cable comes through, the bulkhead, welded in a tube to give it a nice smooth flow, which runs here. It's got a tube that basically runs, and this is a wiper linkage tube that runs through. So we've got a nice curve on it, so we haven't got it chafing on anything. Now I don't know if that will be successful or not, but this is the whole point of dry fitting everything. So yeah, that's the pedal box mounting. I'm going to get the servos into that and get that in the car. Okay, quick update of where I am. Today is Sunday. It's the fastest mini in the world race at Brands Hatch, and I am not there. I've got to go to work. Bummer. Anyway, I'm out in the garage very early on this Sunday morning, just fettling and playing around, just sorting out my bolts. Now, guys, if you need some bolts for a Mini, this is a company called Right Auto Supplies. They're on Amazon, eBay, I think. I bought this from a local classic car show. And they do a massive pack of bolts, basically, for classic Mini. Front shock bolts, seat bolts, upper shock mounts, front subframe, rear subframe, door hinge screws, you name it. All the stuff that's quite hard to get hold of, he supplies in one kit. It's £90 or £89. You get all those UNF bolts. You get some metric bolts as well. So we've got metric and UNF just there, which are really, really good. And that apparently will do all the bolts on a Mini, other than the bits that obviously I'm adding, which is really cool. So it just makes sure you've got the right bolts, right thread, etc. For your car. Where am I? Got steering column in. Got my Go Race quick release on my steering wheel, so I'm just playing around with that at the moment, which is cool. That all lines up lovely. We've got no interference. I've just got to get the pedal box in, which is just there now. The bracket, as you've seen, is all in. Steering rack is all in. I've got to do the UJs up, which is just there, which is cool. I've got the boot floor all in, albeit an overkill on bolts, I think. Obviously, it's all just taped up at the moment. I've got to just fettle this back corner here because it's had a battery box, I think, replaced, and they've kind of flattened the floor out here. And I've just got to kind of dolly it up a bit because there's a bit of a gap just there, which I'm not happy with. So I'm just going to fettle that up, but I can't do it at the moment because it's really early on a Sunday morning. And like I say, I've got to go to work, which is a bummer because I wanted to go to the fastest Mini in the world race. Because a year ago today, I bought that. And if you haven't seen that, I'm going to put a picture of it running in the fire brigade's car that they ran in Mini MIG. So it's on the screen now of it running. I actually found it on YouTube, which is amazing. So that's that engine running. Bias is all in, which is really cool. Question on the pedal box, though, for you people out there that are really nerdy with this kind of stuff, and I am not. Servos are all fitted, albeit the clutch sits slightly lower than the brake, as you can see. Now, with the brake, as you can see just in here, just where my end of my thumb is, this obviously master cylinder thread touches in here. Is it worth cutting this off so I can drop the pedal a little bit more? Because you can see it's a good inch out. Just pulling this inwards, allowing the pedal to sit slightly lower. What I am going to do first, though, is bolt this in up here. Make sure it clears the steering rack, because I might need to move it across by 5mm. And if so, that bracket, again, I can see roughly cut one. I'll modify that anyway. But yeah, fastest Mini in the world race. Gutted I'm missing that. Really am gutted. Got some plates to go here. Just trimmed around these because this is what I'm going to obviously bolting and welding onto the bulkhead. Got some plates. Got to destroy my lovely powder coated subframe, but they're going to be welded in there, just like so, on both sides. And then by doing so, that little bad boy can mount into it. So what I've got to do is just from the pear drops at the front is cut that bracketry off, allowing, obviously, so I'm going to slice across there and down there, cutting that out, so allowing me to get access. And then I've still got some structural support inside. I'll bolt the subframe in, put the tie bars in, tighten them up, and then I can weld the plates onto the bulkhead. And then I can cut the inner wing out. I really wanted to try and get the engine in, fully simply because it's been a year since I've had it and it's still not in the car. Admittedly, this roll cage went off and it was off for like a good 4 or 5 months, which was annoying, but great in the same breath. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. So let's put some tunes on and work out. I think I'll get the pedal box in next, but do the steering rack up first to pull that up so it's nice and tight, so we've got it true to form. And then we'll get the steering pedal box in, make sure that clears. If it doesn't clear, we know what we need to adjust on it. Then I'm going to work on, I'll leave the boot floor, I think, inner wings, cut them out, and then just get the subframe in and start welding up. I think I'm going to have to modify the front subframe anyway for the radiator to mount into it, so not the end of the world, but just have to get it repowder coated. A bit of a pain, but it's a learning game. Anyway, I'm rambling on, let's crack on. Quite a quick one. This is what I've just done here. I've cut down the plates from that big square, so I've bolted them together so they look symmetrical. I've welded captive nuts on which I'm going to drill into the bulkhead. I've just got to tidy that up, but that's the plates, and I can weld round these now. Put those on the bulkhead, but more importantly, solid strength in those ends. Get us a good 4mm plate on the end there. And yeah, had the welder on max 2 for that one, so that was literally pulling. They aren't going anywhere. And the same, where is it? Down that end, upside down. So we've got the plates in, we've got a spacer, which is great. I had to grind off, but to be fair, I've knackered the powder coating anyway, so in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, got to drill some holes for the radiator when I get that in, but at least I can now finish off bolting up the pedal box, get the steering rack in, and then I can bolt this in now. And by bolting this in, we should be good to line up these plates here. Let's crack on. There we are. Awesome. So we have got a good 4 or 5mm gap down there on the actual brake pedal. However, I am going to move the box across a bit by about 10mm. I will replace that bolt, it's a bit long, but I just wanted to get the steering column bolted in. Pedal box is all up nice and true. We've got clearance there for the clutch, which is great. Brake's a bit high, as I mentioned earlier. We need to just get that sorted out. So yeah, the clutch doesn't hit the floor, plus there's also a stop on the clutch. We've got good clearance for the reservoirs, so we could easily move that across 10mm, which is great. Just to give ourselves a little bit of clearance on the pedal just there. And to bring this across a bit, but I've got to allow for the throttle cable to come through. But all in all, really good fit that. Very happy. The angle on this box just up here, there to there, is 100 degrees, so I might just drop that to 90 to lower the pedal slightly when I remake it. But the whole idea is to bolt this in and understand what's not quite perfect, and that way then I can adjust it accordingly. That's for my battery kill switch, which is just there. So yeah, all in all, dead happy with that. Dead happy. Really pleased. Really, really pleased. Right, let's get on to the next bit. Where are we? We are now subframe in. I had a real old faff trying to get that rear floor pan brackets on, but they're all in now. I obviously had to adjust these bolts in and out because obviously where I've put these plates, I bolted it through that way and nutted it, and the nut was too long. So I've turned those around, and this is kind of why I'm dry fitting everything. So I'm getting an idea of how it all goes together and the easiest way of obviously bolting it together. Because I've never really fitted one of these before, so it's quite an interesting way that you've got to lift it up but leave it enough wiggle room, but put the floor subframe mounts on the subframe first and leave them loose, and then wiggle it in, and then you can get the bolts in, which I bolted them to the floor and then I couldn't get the holes to line up. So yeah, really pleased with that. Really chuffed with my little brackets I've made as well down here. Obviously I've cut these areas out. I might put some strengthening gussets just across from here to here, just to strengthen up this lower panel. But I'll do that later on when I've got the welder out. I'm just going to mark these up now and make sure they're the right height. So I'm going to drill a bigger hole just to allow the nut to go in, and then I'm going to weld around it. That's the idea, for a bit more front end stability and strength for when I do cut the inner wings out. So yeah, I'm hoping that isn't going to cause too many issues. But anyway, let's crack on. So let's have a quick look at what we've done. We've got all the steering column in, pedal box in. Welded up a lot of little holes along the front here from previous grills, etc. And obviously where we had the bonnet straps, and we've done the same here, all along here. But more importantly, we've cut the inner wings out, and we've got these nice and tight now. And we've got a bit of adjustment on there as well. And they're pretty much bang on. Like I say, not the tidiest job in the world, if I'm honest. But for a beginner, I'm quite happy with that. I will just obviously fettle and play around with them. But we've come through on the top just there. And just down there. I've actually land guarded inside those holes, which is run inside, which is good. And I'll do the same once it comes back from paint into all the cavities. But yeah, that is another thing I've always wanted. Tick. So I'm ticking off all like the mini build stuff that I used to see as a kid. This is actually quite strong. I was really worried about how much flex, but to be honest with you, now we've got these in, I've cut the inner wings. I've got some tidying up to do, because you can see here where the two panels are split. So what I'm going to do is I'll dolly all this together. I'm going to put weld up through here and just run some weld, and then I can tidy it all back. Same here where the two skins meet. So I'm going to weld up through here to stop any corrosion. But it's nice to see that there's no corrosion in there from previous 40 plus years. So yeah, there we go. Got to clean up all underneath the wheel arches, but I'm going to do that when I get it onto rotisserie. The aim of the game is, I'll tell you what, spin the camera around because I look like a right mess. Oh yes, next video, fitting the rear subframe and hopefully getting it on its wheels to accept the engine. Aha! So there we are. That's been a long video, and if you've got this far, thank you very much indeed. My hair is just full of grinding stuff. The welding on those two front little brackets went well, and then I put some more on. I'm getting used to my welder, but I've obviously had to do a lot of linishing and cutting today. I've actually just spent nearly 45 minutes cleaning up because the dust in here is horrendous. But I'm starting to lay stuff out on the table, and as you can see, I'm starting to bolt stuff into the car. And I'm so glad I am doing a dry fit, and the reason for it, and I know it's a lot of hassle, but I've got to I'm finding things to do that I should be doing or should have done, and also changing stuff as well. So, like my inner wing, I spent hours, and this is when I first started to weld, and it is horrendous welding on the back of here. But I was going to have the oil cooler, So if you go back to video 1, I think I'm on video 4962. I was going to have the oil cool on the inner wing and have an air duct in and cool it that way. I put these little holes in and I put captive nuts on the back. And it's a real shame that I've cut all this out, but it's not, because I use this as a learning curve. Like, I look at the welds on the back of these nuts, and that's when the welder was at its weakest, so a minimum of 1. I'd now weld these knowing how thick this metal is. I'd put that on a 2-2 or max 1, so I'd get really good penetration. So I'm really pleased that this has kind of been a bit of a welding learning curve, really. And as much as I did like this idea, I didn't like the rudimentary nastiness of it. But anyway, it's gone. It is gone. Same with this bad boy here. I've got like a number here. I'm not quite sure what the number is for, but I'm going to try and save that, cut that out, put that on the car somewhere, because I can imagine it's some form of identification. Yeah, like I say, this has always been a bone of contention, trying to get your hand in through it. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Ha-ha! So, got 2 great big holes, got a pedal box. No, I need to adjust that and move that, which I'll do. But guys, thanks ever so much indeed for watching. We're getting on to the rear subframe and getting that in. And again, it's so handy having those Wrights Auto supplied bolts, because I've got all the bolts just to bolt it straight in. So I haven't got to go hunting around for anything, which does take quite a bit of time. And then I'm going to get that mighty engine in the front. So I feel like I've got a lot of support and strength in that front subframe now, which is cool. But yeah, anybody want a pedal box, do let me know. I've got the pedal box and 3 cylinders. I did mention it to some guy, but he doesn't have Facebook, Instagram or anything, which is a shame. I've tried sending him my email, but no drama. Like I say, I've got loads of stuff to sell. Or will have. I've got fuel tanks, dash, wiring looms and all sorts, because it's not going on this car, which is cool. But anyway, guys, thanks ever so much indeed for watching. I always say guys, but right, guys and girls, thank you very much indeed for watching. And until next time, really, I'm going to go and have a long, well-deserved hot shower and get all this crap off me. I will. See you soon.